The silence that governs. The forgotten weapon of King's Florence, 1513. A man sits in exile, tortured, stripped of every title he ever earned, left to rot by the same Medici family that once trusted him with the keys to their empire. Niccolo Machiavelli could have screamed his innocence to anyone who would listen, could have written desperate letters begging for understanding, could have justified every decision, explained every action, proved he was never the traitor they claimed. He didn't do any of that. He picked up a pen and wrote The Prince. He didn't defend himself. He redefined the entire game. While his accusers waited for him to beg, he created a manual of power that would outlive them by 5 centuries. While they wanted him on his knees, he built a throne made of ink and ruthless clarity. Now think about you. Last week, last month, yesterday morning, someone accused you of something, questioned your motives, twisted your words into a weapon and pointed it straight at your chest. And what did you do? You explained. You sent that long text message, that 3-paragraph email. You provided context, background, clarification. No, that's not what I meant. What I actually meant was, and in that exact moment you handed them the knife and showed them precisely where to cut. Because there's something Machiavelli understood that you're still learning the hard way. He wrote, "The lion cannot protect himself from traps, and the fox cannot defend himself from wolves. One must therefore be a fox to recognize traps, and a lion to frighten wolves. But you haven't been either the fox or the lion. You've been the deer, standing frozen in the clearing, explaining to the wolf why you deserve to live. The wolf doesn't give a damn about your reasons. The wolf only cares about your throat. And every word you speak exposes it a little more." Let me take you back to where this started. 3rd grade. You're standing in front of the teacher's desk. She's asking why you didn't finish your homework. What's the only acceptable response? Explanation. "My dog ate it. My mom was sick. I forgot my backpack at my dad's house." And if the explanation is good enough, if you perform contrition convincingly enough, the punishment lessens. Maybe you get a warning instead of detention. Maybe she lets you turn it in tomorrow. You learned something that day. Something that poisoned every interaction you've had since. You learned that authority figures hold the power of judgment, and your survival depends on making them believe you're good, that you tried, that you deserve mercy. The problem is simple and absolutely devastating. You never unlearned it. You're 35 years old, pulling down 6 figures, running teams, making decisions that affect people's lives, and you're still that 8-year-old kid. Still performing for the teacher, still begging permission to exist. Your boss questions a decision in the Monday morning meeting. You scramble to justify every data point. Your girlfriend accuses you of being emotionally distant. You list every thoughtful thing you've done for her in the past month. Some random guy on Twitter calls you ignorant. You write a dissertation proving your intelligence. Every single time. And every single time, you lose. Because you've accepted their frame. You've stepped into their courtroom. You've agreed to be the defendant in a trial you never consented to. Machiavelli saw this pattern everywhere in Renaissance Italy. Princes who apologized, leaders who justified, men who desperately needed to be understood. And he watched them all fall, every single one. He wrote something that should be carved into your bones. Men judge generally more by the eye than by the hand, for everyone can see and few can feel. Everyone sees what you appear to be. Few really know what you are. Translation: stop trying to make them know you. Control what they see. The moment you explain yourself, you reveal your wounds. You show them exactly which buttons cause pain when pressed. You give them the map to your psychological infrastructure. "I'm not stupid," you shout back. Now they know your insecurity is intelligence. They know that's where you bleed. "I'm not a bad person," you plead. Now they know your vulnerability is moral worth. They know that's the lever they can pull. You think you're defending yourself. You're actually handing them the blueprint for your destruction. And here's where it gets deeper. Because this isn't just about a single interaction. Freud understood something crucial about the human psyche. He said, "That which we resist persists." The more you defend something, the more you confirm there's something worth defending. The more you protest your innocence, the more you validate the accusation. It's like if someone walked up to you out of nowhere and asked, "Did you stop beating your wife?" If you respond with, "I never beat my wife," you've already lost. You've accepted the premise of the question. You've entered the game. The free man's response: silence, eye contact, keep walking. Because you don't owe explanations to people who don't have the authority to demand them. Stop. Hold on. There's something happening here that runs deeper than you realize. Every time you defend yourself, you're not just giving away power in that specific moment. You're reinforcing a neural pattern that was carved into your brain decades ago. Freud called this repetition compulsion. You're repeating the original trauma, the child standing before the authority figure, every single time someone questions you. And each repetition makes the pattern deeper, more automatic, more fundamental to who you are. Until one day, you don't even notice it anymore. Defending yourself became your default personality setting. You don't even wait for the attack. You walk into every conversation preloading justifications. "Sorry I'm late, traffic was..." "I know it seems like I didn't prepare, but actually, I'm not trying to be difficult, it's just that..." You're apologizing for existing. And here's the cruelest part. The more you explain yourself, the less people believe you. Because someone who has to justify themselves that much must have something to hide, right? That's what their unconscious mind registers. Innocence doesn't require defense. Innocence is self-evident. Think about it. When has explaining yourself ever actually worked? Really think about that. Every relationship argument where you tried to explain your side, did it end with understanding and resolution? Or did it spiral into accusations and counter-accusations until both of you were bleeding? Every workplace conflict where you justified your decision, did your boss nod and say, "Oh, now I get it, you're brilliant"? Or did they just find new angles to attack? Every text message thread where you tried to clarify what you meant, did the other person finally understand? Or did they screenshot your desperation and send it to their friends? The pattern is always the same. Explanation breeds suspicion. Justification creates doubt. Defense confirms guilt. Because power doesn't explain, power exists. Think about Navy SEALs for a second. When they come back from a mission, do they explain themselves? Do they justify their tactics? Do they seek your approval for their decisions? No, they give you the outcome. The rest is classified. Not because it's secret, because it's none of your business. That's the energy you need to cultivate. Not arrogance, not rudeness. Just the simple, unshakable understanding that your internal reasoning is yours alone. So let me show you what power actually looks like in practice. Picture a boardroom, corporate, high stakes. You just pitched a strategy that would shift the entire company's direction for the next quarter. Someone across the table, let's call him Marcus, leans back in his chair and says, "This is reckless. You clearly haven't thought this through. This could tank the entire division." The old you would respond immediately. Your heart would spike, adrenaline would flood your system, and you'd launch into defense mode. Actually, I spent 3 weeks analyzing the data. If you look at slide 7, you'll see the risk mitigation strategy. I consulted with operations, finance, and even brought in McKinsey to validate the assumptions. The downside scenario is capped at 3% loss, while the upside, defensive, desperate, weak. You just showed Marcus, and everyone watching, that his opinion matters more than your conviction, that you need their approval, that you're not actually confident in your own strategy. Now let me show you the Machiavellian response. Marcus attacks. "This is reckless. You clearly haven't thought this through." You stop. You hold eye contact. You let the silence stretch until it becomes uncomfortable for everyone in the room. 3 seconds. 4. 5. The tension builds. People shift in their seats. Marcus's confidence starts to crack because you're not playing the game he set up. And then, with the barest hint of a smile and a tone of genuine curiosity, "Interesting perspective." And you say nothing else. You don't elaborate. You don't defend. You simply acknowledge he spoke, and then you let that acknowledgement hang in the air like smoke. Do you know what happens in that void? Chaos. The human brain cannot tolerate silence during conflict. It signals a rupture in the social contract. It signals that the power dynamic just shifted. When you stay silent, you become a mirror. Marcus's attack doesn't land on you. It reflects back onto him. He's forced to sit in the tension he created. Within 10 seconds, he'll speak again. They always do. I mean, it's not that I think you didn't put in effort, but don't you think we should consider? Now he's explaining. He's defending. He's qualifying. The power just flipped. And you didn't do anything. You literally did nothing. That's the secret they trained you to forget. Strategic inaction is more powerful than any defensive action. Machiavelli knew this. He wrote, "Never attempt to win by force what can be won by deception." But let's be crystal clear about what deception means in this context. It doesn't mean lying. It means controlling the frame. When you defend yourself, you accept their frame. You agree that they have the authority to judge you, to question you, to put you on trial. When you stay silent, you reject the entire frame. You refuse to play the game by their rules. You're not even ignoring them. You're doing something far more lethal. You're treating their opinion as irrelevant data. Not wrong, not right, just unimportant. And there's no defense against that. Let me give you another example because this is critical. You're on a date. Third one. Things have been going well. You're at dinner and she looks at you across the table and says, "So I noticed you haven't texted me as much this week. Are you seeing someone else?" The beta response, the one programmed into you since childhood. "Oh my God, no. I've just been slammed at work. I had 3 client presentations and my boss has been on my ass about the quarterly numbers. I was thinking about you, I just didn't have time to..." You just failed the test. She didn't actually think you were seeing someone else. She was testing to see if you'd crumble under pressure. If you'd panic and explain yourself like a child caught stealing cookies. And you did. Now she knows. Apply pressure. Watch him fold. Store that information for later. The alpha response. The one Machiavelli would recognize. No. One word. Eye contact. Slight smile. Then you take a sip of your drink. She'll wait for more. You don't give it. That's it? Just no? That's all the answer the question needed. Watch what happens. She'll either laugh, impressed by your frame control, or she'll get slightly uncomfortable because the power dynamic isn't what she expected. Either way, you just showed strength. You refused to be interrogated. You refused to justify your communication patterns. You refused to accept the premise that you owe her a detailed accounting of your time. And in refusing all that, you became more attractive, not less. Because attraction isn't built on explanation. It's built on mystery, on challenge, on the understanding that you cannot be easily controlled. But here's where this gets dangerous and most people miss it entirely. Silence alone isn't enough. Remember what Machiavelli said about the fox and the lion? That wasn't poetic decoration. That was operational intelligence. The fox sees the traps. The lion frightens the wolves. You need both. There will be moments when silence is the move, when the most powerful thing you can do is absolutely nothing. But there will also be moments when you need to speak, not to defend but to dominate, to flip the script so completely that they question reality itself. This is where the ancient technique comes in, the one Machiavelli used in the Medici courts, the one you can trace back through Rome, through Athens, through every empire that truly understood power. Agree and amplify. Someone accuses you. You only care about yourself. The defensive response, "That's not true. I helped you move last month. I covered your shift on Christmas. I literally gave you my playoff tickets." Pathetic, needy, desperate for approval. The Machiavellian response, "You're absolutely right. In fact, I'm thinking about making it official. I'm starting a religion where I'm the only deity. Should be ready by Thursday. You want in on the ground floor?" Flat delivery, slight smirk, dead eyes. What did you just do? You refused to be insulted. You proved you're not insecure about the accusation. You transformed their attack into absurdist theater. You showed that you cannot be shamed. And a person who cannot be shamed cannot be controlled. Think about the best trash talkers in sports. Michael Jordan, Larry Bird, Conor McGregor. When someone talked shit to them, did they defend themselves? Did they explain why they were actually good? No. They agreed and escalated to absurdity. You think I'm arrogant? Watch what I do in the fourth quarter. I'm gonna make you retire. They weaponized the accusation. Freud would say you're integrating the shadow. Instead of repressing the accusation, you're embracing it, absorbing it, making it yours. And in that embrace, you strip it of all power. Because here's what Freud discovered in his years of treating neurotic patients. We don't suffer from our experiences. We suffer from our repression of our experiences. Every time you deny an accusation, you're repressing a part of yourself. You're saying, that's not me, I'm not that, I could never be that. But the truth is, you are that. You're selfish sometimes. You're arrogant sometimes. You're all the things they accuse you of, at least in certain contexts. And that's okay. The integrated man accepts all parts of himself, the selfish part, the generous part, the cruel part, the kind part. He doesn't perform goodness for an audience. He simply exists in his full complexity. Machiavelli would say it's better to be feared than loved, if you cannot be both. But in modern translation, it's better to be respected than understood. When you chase understanding, you chase validation. You're trying to make them see the real you. But here's the secret nobody tells you. The real you doesn't matter. Only the perception of you matters. And perception is controlled not by explanation, but by demonstration. When you stay silent in the face of accusation, you demonstrate strength. When you agree and amplify, you demonstrate amused mastery. When you refuse to defend, you demonstrate sovereignty. These demonstrations carve themselves into the observer's nervous system. They bypass logic entirely. They install themselves as instinct, as gut feeling. Don't fuck with that guy. There's something different about him. That's the feeling you want to create, not through words, through the absence of words. Now listen closely. This is where everything changes. For the next 7 days, you are forbidden from defending yourself. 0 explanations, 0 justifications, 0 what I actually meant was. If you're late to a meeting, say, I'm late. Don't give the reason. If someone misunderstands you, let them. If someone attacks you, become stone. Feel the urge to fix it, to manage their perception, to be seen as good, as competent, as worthy, and let that urge burn. Watch it. Study it like a scientist studies a specimen. See how desperate it is. See how it claws at your throat, demanding you speak, explain, justify. See how it's been controlling you your entire life. This is the death you've been avoiding. The death of the people pleaser. The death of the eternal child who needs mommy's approval to exist. Freud would say you're killing the tyrannical superego. That internalized voice of authority that judges you constantly, that prosecutes you in an endless internal trial. Machiavelli would say a prince must have no other objective, no other thought, nor take up any profession but that of war. Your war is not with them. Your war is with the part of you that still begs for permission to exist. Kill it. And when it dies, something strange will happen. People will respect you more. Not because you explained yourself better, but because you stopped explaining entirely. They'll be drawn to you, not because you became nicer, but because you became solid, unmovable, real. You'll have become what Machiavelli called virtù, not virtue in the moral sense, but competence, the ability to do what must be done without hesitation, without guilt, without needing applause. Let me break down what this actually looks like day by day, because without specifics, this remains theory. Deonio is someone questions your decision. Your chest tightens. You can feel the explanation forming in your throat like vomit. Swallow it. Say nothing or say, noted. That's it. You'll feel like you're being rude, like you're being difficult, like you're damaging the relationship. You're not. You're setting a boundary. You're teaching people how to treat you. Day 2. Your girlfriend says you're being distant. The old you would list everything you did for her this week, would recite a catalog of your efforts, would beg her to see your value, the new you. I hear you. No defense, no list, just acknowledgement. She'll probably push. That's it? That's all you have to say? What else would you like me to say? Notice you're not being mean. You're not being cold. You're just refusing to play the game where her feelings become your responsibility to fix through verbal performance. Day 3. Your boss asks why you chose approach A over approach B. You want to justify for 10 minutes. You want to show him all the analysis, all the thoughtfulness, all the consideration. Instead, I made the call based on the available data. Period. Full stop. If he needs more, he'll ask specific questions. But you're not going to preemptively defend every decision you make. That's not leadership. That's insecurity. Day 4 is where it gets hard, because by now people are noticing you've changed, and they don't like it. Change threatens people. It destabilizes the roles they've assigned you. If you're no longer the guy who explains himself, who are you? And more importantly, who are they in relation to this new you? They'll push harder, test you. Wow, so you're just not going to explain yourself now? That's pretty arrogant. This is the crucible. This is where most people break and go back to the old pattern. Don't. Interesting interpretation. And you keep moving. You'll feel their disapproval. It'll hurt. Because you're wired for social cohesion, for approval, for belonging. But that wiring was installed in you when you were powerless, when you needed the tribe to survive. You don't anymore. Day 5. You'll notice something shifting. The people who respected you before respect you more. They might not say it, but you'll feel it in how they interact with you. The people who didn't respect you, some of them are starting to. Because respect isn't given to the nice guy. It's given to the solid guy. The guy who can't be pushed. The guy who knows who he is and doesn't need your validation. Day 6. Someone will try to bait you into defending yourself, and you won't even feel the urge anymore. It'll just seem beneath you, like a grown man watching children argue about whose dad is stronger. You don't have anything to prove. Day 7. You'll look in the mirror and see someone different. Someone who exists independent of approval. Someone free. But here's what nobody tells you about this process. It's going to hurt. Because when you stop defending yourself, you stop managing how people see you. And some people will see you wrong, will misunderstand you, will think you're cold or arrogant or difficult, and you'll have to let them. That's the price of sovereignty. Some people will get it wrong, and you don't get to correct them. You know what that feels like? It feels like dying. Because the ego, the false self you've constructed over decades, feeds on validation, on being understood, on being seen as good. And when you withdraw that food, the ego starves. It thrashes, it screams. It begs you to go back to the old way. Just explain this one thing, just clarify this one misunderstanding. Just show them you're not a bad person. No, let it die. Freud spent his entire career trying to make people see this. Neurosis is the gap between who you are and who you think you need to be. The bigger the gap, the greater the suffering. The cure isn't becoming the person you think you need to be. It's killing the belief that you need to be anything at all. Machiavelli saw this in the leaders who survived the brutal politics of Renaissance Italy. They weren't the most moral. They were the most integrated. The ones who accepted all parts of themselves, the light and the shadow, the fox and the lion, the diplomat and the killer. They didn't need to be seen as good. They needed to be effective, and effectiveness doesn't explain itself. Think about the most powerful people you know, CEOs, generals, elite operators in any field. They don't explain their reasoning to everyone who questions them. They execute, they deliver results, and they let the results speak. When Steve Jobs was building the iPhone, people said it would fail, that it was too expensive, too complicated, that no one would want a phone without a keyboard. Did Jobs defend himself? Did he write long emails explaining his vision? No. He said, "You'll see," and kept building. And when it launched, he didn't say, "I told you so." He just let the world line up to buy it. That's power. Not convincing people you're right. becoming so undeniably right that their opinions become irrelevant. So here's your real choice. You can close this video, go back to your life, pretend everything's fine. And 20 years from now, you'll look back and wonder where you lost yourself, where you traded your power for approval, where the kid who dreamed big became the man who settled for being liked. Or you can do something different. You can wake up tomorrow morning, look yourself in the mirror and say, "It's over." The era of seeking permission is over. The era of being invisible is over. The era of begging for validation is over. Done. If you're choosing the second option, if you're actually going to do this, write one word in the comments. Silent. Not for me, for you. Because when you declare something publicly, you create commitment. And commitment, when witnessed, becomes reality. But I'm going to be straight with you. This isn't for everyone. Most people will watch this, feel a chill run down their spine, and do nothing. And that's fine. The world needs spectators too. But if you're different, if you're one of the rare ones who actually executes, then pay attention, because in the next video I'm going to show you something nobody talks about, something that when you understand it, will change not just how you act, but how you think. I'm going to show you the necessary cruelty, what to do when silence isn't enough, when you need to stop defending and start counterattacking, when you need to make them question whether crossing you was the worst decision they ever made. This isn't theory, this is war, and you were born to win it. I'll see you on the other side.